On September 11, 2001, criminal acts are committed here in the United States of America killed nearly 3,000 people. And as we all know, the majority of those deaths occurred in the destruction of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. In the decades since 9/11, architects, engineers, and other professionals have researched the evidence and, based on the scientific forensic evidence, believe that highly energetic incendiaries, which have been many properties of explosives, were involved in the destruction of the 3 World Trade Center high-rises on September 11. More than 1,500 verified and vetted architects and engineers, including high-rise architects, structural, chemical, and fire protection engineers, plus more than 12,000 others, have publicly signed the AE 9/11 Truth petition calling for a new independent investigation into the destruction of the World Trade Center buildings on 9/11. 9/11 was a crisis when it happened and allowed little time for questioning what we were told. In the weeks and months that followed, only one explanation was heard in the media: that structural damage and fire alone destroyed the symbol of America. But 10 years later, we are able to look back and view those scenes through more observant eyes. 9/11 is now an urgent concern for a growing number of U.S. citizens and people around the world. AE 911 Truth supporters throughout the United States are demanding attention to the fact that highly credentialed professionals dispute the official government reports about the catastrophic destruction of the World Trade Center high-rises on 9/11. Equally troubling is the fact that most Americans have never even heard that a 3rd skyscraper fell on 9/11. Have you ever heard of Building 7? World Trade Center 7 was a 47-story skyscraper with a footprint nearly the size of a football field. It would have been the tallest building in 33 of our states. At 5:20 in the afternoon on 9/11, Building 7 fell symmetrically across its entire length and breadth, at a rate indistinguishable from free fall for the first 100 feet of its descent. It fell nearly into its own footprint in about 6.5 seconds. Although the National Institute of Standards and Technology, the government agency tasked with analyzing the destruction of the buildings on 9/11, acknowledged that World Trade Center Building 7 fell free fall acceleration for 105 feet. NIST has failed to admit the implications. All the building supports had to have been simultaneously removed, synchronistically timed floor by floor to remove all column supports, so that there were no structural components blocking the descent of the upper floors. This cannot be achieved by normal office fires, as NIST claims. Credentialed experts point to other evidence that investigations by the National Institute of Standards and Technology and other agencies were conducted improperly and seriously compromised. Evidence was destroyed prior to the completion of the investigation. Mysterious findings of high temperature corrosion and sulfidation of structural steel in the initial FEMA investigations were not carried forward into the NIST reports. Investigators did not follow the National Fire Protection Association Guide 921 Guide for Fire and Explosion Investigations in the weeks and months after the search for survivors ended. And NIST failed to include significant relevant forensic evidence, including rapid onset of destruction with unnatural symmetry, breaking apart of the massive steel structures, mid-air pulverization of concrete and other building materials, incendiary thermitic material and iron microspheres discovered in the World Trade Center dust, molten iron seen in and under the debris pile by witnesses and documented by FEMA. As a side note, steel cannot be melted by an office fire of any intensity, but can be melted by incendiaries. This information is widely available on the internet, but is not widely shown in the mainstream media. It is easy to have not yet known or grasped this information. To mark the 10th anniversary of 9/11, courageous volunteers who believe in freedom of speech as an important founding principle of our nation are stepping up to open the way for honest discussion of what happened on 9/11. Throughout the United States, these hardworking, dedicated volunteers are delivering letters to legal and law enforcement professionals. They are gathering and speaking in front of courthouses. They are educating the public by showing documentaries that include interviews with expert petition signers, and they are scheduling meetings with their members of Congress, calling for a new investigation of 9/11. 9/11 was a pivotal point in our nation's history. It's important that we know how the Twin Towers were destroyed on 9/11. We need justice for the victims of 9/11 and their families. Architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth and supporters ask that everyone review the evidence presented on our website at ee911truth.org. Look at the evidence for yourself and speak with your neighbors and your colleagues. Looking at the evidence together and with a new investigation, we can discern the truth about what happened on 9/11.